right, thank you very much. Do we have any first-time people who are? This is the first time they've been to a competition.
Me.
Who is
Laura.
that? Laura.
Laura.
Yeah.
Laura, have you ever been to a camera club before?
No, I'm new. I was still
Okay.
shooting on Otto in September and Tony and
That doesn't matter at all. That doesn't matter at all. I generally let people know the reason we do competitions is we like to win. No, the reason we like to do competitions is this is one way we use to get our damn images off that computer and in front of people. And that's a challenge for us as photographers. And in that way, we begin to get some feedback as to how other people sees our images. It's really easy to talk about this stuff, but it's really difficult to see it in our own images. So one of the things that we do as the clubs is we do this, we submit these images. They're actually anonymous when you submit them. And then we have a speaker from a photographer from outside the club offer commentary, which is my role tonight. But this is how we learn. And this is how we get better, by participating in these competitions. They force us to keep hitting those that shutter button. They force us to keep processing and submitting our images. And I have yet to see somebody who doesn't compete, fairly good participation in the competitions over a year, whose images don't get better as they go. So yes, this is intimidating, and we know it. And yeah, I'm going to be making some comments on something that may be your heart and soul, and that's a little hard to take. It is for me. And frankly, I don't always agree with the judges when my images are up there, so I don't expect you to really agree with everything I say, but I hope you'll understand why I'm saying it. But this is our mechanism. We as photographers have learned that we grow. And so we get past that intimidation factor. We sort of swallow our pride a little bit. And in the end, I think we all come out better for it. So I hope that you'll begin to see that's what tonight's all about.
Great.
Okay, well, let's get going then.
Okay. Let's see if I can get set. And just a sec, I'm not getting all the windows up. Bill, have you spotlighted me, or?
I've made you co-host.
Here
we go.
Because the ICM is not coming up in the Zoom window. I'm not sure why.
Did you share your computer screen, or did you share a different application?
Pardon?
Did you share your computer screen, or did you try to share a specific application?
Just a moment. Okay, just a second. I think I have my screen through. We'll see. Do you now see Creative Basic?
Yes, we do. All right, we're in business.
Okay, Creative Basic, one image.
Time series images of the annular ring of fire. Oops. I didn't memorize that. So. of the annular Ring of Fire solar eclipse, Palo Cedro, California, May 20th, 2012, from 5:08 p.m. until about 7:18 p.m. Our cows did not seem to care.
All right, so here's this is both an interesting pictorial and creative. Creative in that how you've done the overlay of the time series on top of the other image. It has a little bit of a graphic quality to it, because we're seeing it's more than just a photographic image. It's got some graphics in terms of the time signatures on it, but that's some of the things that sort of makes it interesting. So an interesting way of putting this together, again, to my way of looking at it, yes, it's in a photography type of setting. I like to see things that are a little bit less graphic image type, and this does a little bit of that, but it's a fun thing, and it was nice for you to try to put this together in that way. Nice job. Thank you.
Just a moment. Creative intermediate, 4 images.
Flower power.
Okay, lots of really startling color and shapes and all sorts of things going on here, but nothing's really identifiable. We really can't tell what it is we're looking at, and as such, then we start looking this more as a an abstract than as an image that's really showing us something. The elements of composition are still important in creative, and you still have to find a way of grabbing our interest. And if we can't identify what it is enough to say, hey, this is worth looking at, then it sort of diminishes a little bit of the effect you're getting. Your title implies that maybe this is a flower that somehow or another you've altered the reality to make it there, but I really can't tell that. And it's, to me, an image who relies solely on the title in order to make sense of it probably is not as strong as an image in that category. Thank you.
The fleeting color of autumn.
Right here, so this is fun. I love the idea of having the autumn colors there, and the fact that you've got these little duplications going through there in parts of the image to give us a sense of passage of time. Sort of is in conjunction with the title of fleeting color. I think works very nicely. It's an unusual way of doing things. I haven't seen this done before, but it works. And so I'm enjoying that. It's very clear what I'm looking at, and I don't have any trouble focusing initially on the red leaves of the main subject, and then start appreciating the duplicated images and how that may impact it. All that works for fun. So an unusual way of showing this, and I think very imaginative. I really like what you got here, and keep trying these things out. Thank you.
Preening time.
Okay, here we've taken a normal image and then did some altered reality to it with different types of filters. And I think this is great here. And isn't that you just chose a filter, hit it, and gee, I like it, is to me, I can see real intent on what filters you used and where you use them and what effect you were trying to get. And in that way, I think it's a very successful shot. There's some filter use with purpose here. And it all builds a nice story. And I love the sort of soft, flowy look you've got there. I love the undulation and the feathers. All that works out nicely. There's no doubt this belongs in the creative category, but it's a wonderful pictorial as well. And I'm just really enjoying it. Nice job. I don't think I would have changed anything here. You've done a really nice job, and I'm really enjoying it. Thank you.
Front and center.
Okay, one of the categories we see a lot in creative is altered reality. We show an image and then we boost it or change the coloration some way. And I believe that this is one of those images, and it's appropriate here. You know, you really brought forward that central bloom. You've blasted the color out, and that's fine because you really that's the whole purpose here. The front and center flower to really grab our attention, almost to the extent that we're losing some of the detail. But in this case, that's fine. Nice job in terms of blurring the background a little bit and darkening that so it's really front and center. And this is just a fun shot. It could also be a pictorial as well, but I think most appropriate here, and he did a nice job in altering that. But the only thing I might try is adding a little bit more space at the top. The rules of composition still hold. And so if that wasn't quite as close to the top, maybe it might be a little bit more relaxing to look at. It'll be something I'd try and see if I liked it. Thank you.
Creative Advanced, 4 images.
Weird times in 2020.
Okay, so here we got altered reality going again and fun, and we're the real purpose. That this image in conjunction with the title works out very nicely. I love that feeling of energy we have coming from the clocks, and not only in just the white rays that are protruding from that. All throughout the image, you have some flowing lines that are leading from that. It gives us a sense of energy, and I think that's a very effective here. I don't know. A lot of different things one could do with this. If this were my image, I might be tempted to darken the areas behind the building and on the sides, maybe. But it'd be one of those things I might try doing and see if I like it better or not. But that's a personal choice and something to look at. But I love the theme. I love how you've taken that image and then added something to give us a sense of weirdness, a sense of things exploding out, emanating from it, and a sense of wonder. So all nicely done. Thank you.
What strange bloom is this?
Okay. Fun one here. When I first saw this, I'm a little mystified what I'm looking at. Your title tells me maybe there's a bloom there, but I'm having a hard time really seeing the bloom itself. And then I begin to reflex back to the idea of abstracts. I'm trying to say, well, there's a bloom there and I'm looking for it. And to me personally, it's just not clicking as much for me to really understand it quite as much as maybe you see. But that may just be me. A couple things I would definitely do here is I would cut a little bit of the darkness on the bottom off and add a little bit more on the top. Those rules of composition, those concepts of composition still apply. Bring that down so I don't feel like it's a little unbalanced with lots of space in the bottom and not as much space in the top. But I like the shading. I've liked how you got these objects, these things emerging from the background, and that's because you've got some very nice fall off of light on most of the I guess with their petals. So all that works pretty nicely. Again, I don't know if I've really caught the bloom aspect of it personally, but it is a fun image to look at, and well done. Thank you.
Memories for sale.
Okay. Neat image here. You got all these lines coming in there, these spaces, and you got these a little bit of reminiscent images that are popping throughout there. So it's a nice composite of multiple things, and the compositing has been done very nicely here and very subtly. Now, one of the things I'll mention that, in creative, when you do composites, the assumption is that all the elements you're adding in your composite are images you took. And so, I'm sure those images of that person on the face there and the couple down there were your own images. Plus you have some interesting flower shots there. Fun stuff. There's an abstract quality to it, but not enough that I don't know what's looking at, that I can suspend belief that I don't understand it, and I can just assume these are framing elements, and then I go look for what's in the frames. And as I look, the more I look, the more they begin to emerge. And now my imagination is going. All done nicely. Once you have me imagining those type of things, then I think you've already been successful in your creativity. Nice job. Thank you.
Evening glow.
Okay, so here, this might be an ICM type of image, I'm guessing. ICM means intentional camera movement, that you take a picture of something, you move the camera as you're taking it to get a blurred effect, or maybe you added the blur after the fact. What is it? We don't know. But is it a pure abstract? Not as much, because Evening Glow says, something's happening, it's late evening, and now my imagination is going to try to identify what that is. But I've got something really specifically to look at, that orange and black towards the middle bottom, and it's getting lighter as you go up. There's a glow aspect to it, and my imagination starts taking off as to what this might be. And again, once you have my imagination going, that's a real that's a real success for creativity. I love your colors. I love I just like this shot as being something very different here. And all I can say is nice job. Thank you.
Creative Masters, 6 images.
Chard.
Okay, one of the categories in creative we often see is reality. One is reality altered. Another one is reality shown in a creative and different way. And this image possibly fits into that second category of creativity, or maybe the first, where you've got sort of a coloration applied to these scales of charred bark. And I'm going to assume for the moment that these are not the natural colors of that, but you added those to add a little bit of intention there. One of the critical things for creativity or creative images is that the creative content is evident. And I've had some images that have been done so well that I can't tell they're altered reality or not, or they're composite or not. They're done so nicely, and they don't tend to do as well because the creative aspect is not apparent. Here, the coloration, I think, is your real creative part, and seeing that bark in that way. A lot of fun stuff. I don't know if you need all that, or maybe you can cut some stuff from the right. That's sort of a maker's choice. If I were to take things off from the right, I might be able to make that central sort of knot a more prevalent in the image and give me a little bit more to stare at, which give me a focal point. But that's a minor point. But try going from that side and see if maybe you don't like it a little bit more. Realize, though, that cropping is one of the easiest and yet the hardest things to do in our images. Easy to technically do it, but we work so hard at getting those pixels, it's awfully hard to get rid of some of those. But in photography, often less is more. Thank you.
And the wolf huffed and puffed.
Fun. This is really a neat image. I'm really enjoying this because first, it's very imaginative. You got that you managed to move that building over and give it that slant, and that's very nice. But it's done so well. It's not very evident that was artificially done. It seems to fit so nicely. Not only that, but I love your composition. Yeah, 2/3 of it is sky, but you get that sense of aloneness, that sense of, in the midst of a whole wide area, something happening. And both the wide landscape at the bottom and the open sky all lend itself to that. So I think that works out very, rather nicely. The centered aspect doesn't bother me at all because it works for the kind of feeling you're giving me. Just one technical thing I might notice is I do notice a white halo on the left hand edge of the building. And if this were mine, I might be tempted to try to remove that a little bit because my eye keeps popping back to that. Maybe I'm just sensitive to that. But aside from that, a very nice shot. Thank you.
Aging isolated.
All right. Lots of neat stuff here. First, I love your color palette. And I love the fact that you have maybe 3 main elements. You have the bottom element, you have the sculpture element, and then you have the sort of a leaf-like element there. And in each of those, although the color palette is similar, the texture quality of each of those is very, very different. Yet they all seem to merge and dance together. And so that's a wonderful thing. I also appreciated how you added that border and sort of had a little bit of a grunge aspect to the outside of it. All that works really nicely here. So yeah, initially you look at that and you wonder if it's an abstract, but the more you look at it, the more you focus on the elements and how they dance and interact with each other. And now my mind is going. Sign of a nice creative shot. Good job. Thank you.
Warped 2020.
Okay, so here we got, maybe this is a composite, maybe it isn't, it doesn't matter. I love how you've treated these different elements differently. I love the person and the red doors being the most prominent image in terms of clarity. And then you have these other elements present but fading off, and this wonderful texture sort of overriding the whole area. So you've got us looking at things you want us to look at, by nature of how clear they are, yet you got lots of other elements dancing about that are giving lots of interesting effects as well. Both the stairs going up, the stairs, the different texture of the undersized stairs and the landing, the different interesting color palette. It all comes together very nicely. I'm just enjoying this and thinking this is just a wonderful example of what we can do in our creative category. Nice job. Thank you.
Ridges and rolls.
Okay, so here you saw something and then you made a little bit more to it. That's a wonderful thing to do in creativity. I love how you saw these as potential eyes and mouths and nose, and yet it's this tree image. You've taken maybe it's obviously I think it's a composite where the eye was added. One eye was added, but you got those other stuff there as well, and the whole image of a face is there, and our minds start working. About the only thing I might suggest here is to maybe do some heavy vignetting around the edges and the bottom and the top. If you did a more circular or an oval type of vignette, it might further the illusion of a face without building that. Now I see there is some vignetting around the edges, but I would be tempted to push that even a little bit more. So to get my mind's eye looking a little bit less away from a rectangular image to more of an oval type things to reinforce the concept of the face. But aside from that, nicely seen and nicely done. Thank you.
I swear I saw Spider-Man on that building.
All right, so here you're taking a shot and giving it sort of a graphic quality to it, almost a comic book like looking at it. And what supports that comic book feel? Your title of Spider-Man. Well, he only exists in comic books and movies, and so that seems to reinforce the graphic image quality of this. But that aside, there's interesting shadows, interesting colors there, all sorts of different lines. Just an imaginative shot and well done. Thank you.
Pictorial basic, 4 images.
Let there be light.
All right. This is a neat shot. Good job on getting this effect. You got these crepuscular sun rays coming out. You've got that silhouetting the very, very center, and you've let the image go very hazy. And so the soft quality of this all seems to fit nicely, and you've let the light quality and the glowingness really emanate from that center part. All that works nicely. I really am appreciating how the glow has also been highlighted on the shrubbery on the center, lower part of the center as well. That adds tremendous quality to this shot. It's a subtle thing, but it adds a sense of realism that now you get sucked into the whole idea. Is a lot of it sharp? No, but does it need to be here? Not at all. Nice job. Thank you.
Evening straw flower.
Okay. I love these kind of shots. This is reminiscent of some of my photography. I love the concept of a beautiful image, colorful image emerging from the darkness behind. In here, the flower itself is as sharp as it needs to be, and that's great. I can see the detail. I can see if we have somebody with a mic open, that's coming through a little bit. Yeah, I can see the detail in both the petals and in the stem, and that works out nicely. I begin to see a little drop off of light around the edges, and that's a good thing. And finally, your stem is sharp near the flower, but then blurs out at the bottom. And that again gives me a sense of depth. But the only thing I might be tempted to do is maybe shave a little bit off from the top. And I would probably add I would expand the canvas and clone in some blackness on the right edge as well to see if I can't give a little bit more space for that bloom to exist in. Aside from those things though, nice job. Thank you.
Fireworks photobomb.
Okay, so lots of stuff going on here. And, lots of colors, lots of shapes, there's the scenes there. Nice job of catching the buildings, the fireworks there. There's some sort of pier, and you get all these reflections going on in the water as well. All that's nicely done. Okay. The downside is there's so much hot and bright stuff going on that it tends to get lost a little bit. Those fireworks tend to get lost in that. And so the quality of that being a photo bomb, I think, is a little lowered a little bit. One of the things I might challenge you to do is, can you get a reflection of the firework in the water? There's a challenge for you. But that's something that when we see fireworks on water, to see that reflection is a real plus. Lots of hot stuff going on, lots of colors, lots of activity, but the quality of and the interaction of that firework with the environment is sort of lessened here because they compete with each other, and it's a little bit hard to see that. Thank you.
Morgan made a new friend.
Fun. Pictorial tells a story showing these little moments in time where you have interactions between people or animals. It's just a lot of fun. And here you did a great job. You know, you got that both the dog and the butterfly, his attention on that, all that works nicely. Do I see the dog's eyes? No, but there is an implied line of sight between where the eye should be and the thing it's looking at. And that works out nicely. One of the things that I think really helps this shot is those scattering the leaves around. And I think that works out very nicely as well. I do notice that maybe on the upper right and towards the top, it's really bright, and that tends to be the brightest part of the image. If this were my image, I might be tempted to take maybe the top 3 bricks and try to reduce the reduce the brightness of that a little bit, so I can get a little bit more focus on the the orange butterfly and the dog's muzzle a little bit more. But aside from those things, nicely seen, nicely captured. Thank you.
Pictorial intermediate, 4 images.
That's just a baile before the dance.
All right. Interesting portrait shot of this dancer and what she's doing. I like the fact that she appears to be in some sort of pose and her eyes are sort of looking elsewhere as part of her dance, and that works out very nicely. Wonderful detail. The exposure is great. You can see all the detail in her dress. You can see the detail in the flowers. The face is very clear, and we do see a nice drop off in clarity in the background. So your depth of field is pretty nice here. I do note that in the background, those blue, yellow, and red flowers, vase type quality of something below that, and even that white column leading up there tends to be a little distracting. And here, if this were my shot, I would definitely isolate that background away from the foreground and darken it a little bit more, and even blur it even a bit more. The goal here is you don't want anything to compete with your subject, and that's the woman, that's the dancer and her face. And though right near her face, just off to the side there's a lot more detail that tends to compete just a little bit with it and diminishes slightly your subject from your background. Thank you.
Geisha with her fan.
Nice here. I really like this shot. I mean, one of the, first, it's taking away some of our lessons from the last image. Where's the brightest part in this? Well, it's that bloom. And you don't give me the entire bloom. It's sort of hidden. What's your next brightest part? Well, that's the fan and the yellow, the veins in the fan and that yellow color there. And so our eyes are immediately on the bloom and the fan. The other thing I find that's very pleasant here is the textures. The textures in the fan is quite different from the rest of that. And aside from brightness, the next place that our eye goes in our images is the things that are sharpest or have the most texture or the most clear. And so that's the fan here. So you've done a very nice job of really pulling our eyes to where we want, but not at the detriment of the whole image. We also have a feeling of where this belongs with all the different floating leaves in the background. And so I like that they are sharp enough we can understand what they are, but blurred enough that we understand they're in the distance, they're less important, and so they give us a nice setting. I don't know if I would have changed anything here. Well seen, well captured. Thank you.
Oak at golden hour.
Oh, isn't this a wonderfully golden shot? Great here. You waited to a certain time of day. you know, there's all that gold in the background there. There's a shadedness in the foreground, and that works nicely. And here, the brightest part of the image now is that sky. But you've already told us this is sunset, this is golden hour. And so it sort of makes sense to me that that should be really, really bright. And then that's appropriate for the shadows I'm seeing and how the rest of the coloration is. All that works nicely. But the one thing that is a little disappointing is notice how that main subject, that tree, blends in with the background. And so in this case, the magnitude or the quality of that tree in this image is significantly reduced. And we're really losing some of that aspect. So in this case here, you might really try to take this image from a different location to maybe get more of that tree in a silhouette, or maybe find a way that maybe you can darken the tree and lighten the background. But in this case, that tree is sort of lost in the background, and some of the main content, the main subject, therefore, is diminished somewhat. Thank you.
Resolute.
All right, a minimalist shot. I think minimalist shots are great. And your title being a single word supports that minimalist feel. I love the lines we have, and I love within each of the columns we see. Look at that gradation of light from really bright to a shading off, and then it's repeated again in the middle, and then it's repeated again. So excellent job in seeing the light, using the shading to give us a feeling. You have a couple of different colored objects or things that are there. But on top of this all, you also give us enough detail to demonstrate and show off the texture within those columns. So yeah, minimalist shot, but lots of neat stuff here between the light, the texture, and the shapes. All of this is there. Nice job. Thank you.
Pictorial Advanced, 11 images.
Wearied.
All right, so nice image of a distressed wall of some sort with a little bit of detail on it. And so I think that works out very nicely here. The detail is wonderful. It's sharp enough. We can catch that. Texture is very evident. And yet there's some unusual stuff coming in, and how either the paint or is begun to come off, or something is there that's pulling it down there. I guess that's sort of a paint or some bark that maybe is beginning to come off. Whatever. We have some nice contrast between the drooping down of those elements and the white background. Here, I'm enjoying the fact that the gradation of tone I see. At the bottom, it's brightest, and then as you move up, it gets a little bit darker. Yet, there's so much texture in those that I don't find myself being trapped by just the light parts, because the texture is also pulling me along. All that's nicely done. This is tough stuff to see when we're sitting there with our cameras in our hand, and kudos for both seeing this and doing such an effective capture of it. Thank you.
The Wave Symphony.
All right, so here you really you saw a couple elements there, and then you went ahead and captured them such that they're telling a story. There's an interplay between the water there, the surf, the interesting gradations and the textures of the sand and the tufas, if they're, I don't know if those are tufas, but in the rock formations there. And then on top of that, you have another symphony going on with that sky behind there. Okay, so we have 2 to 3 main elements, all which have their own elements, and all of which seem to be interacting with each other. But the only thing I would wonder about is, you know, that sky begins to blend an awful lot in with some of those water, the surf, I believe it's surf that we see there. And I would play with the idea of maybe seeing if I can't darken the sky a little bit to maybe emphasize that surf just a little bit more. I don't know if I'd be successful in doing that, but you know, that would be something I would attempt to do a little bit more to see if I can't get a little more separation of that surf from the sky. But aside from that, nicely done. Interesting textures, colors, shapes, and interaction between main elements. Good job. Thank you.
Approaching storm over Red Rocks Canyon.
Okay, fun stuff here. These are not easy shots, and this is probably a composite of many different lightning strikes. I would guess. I don't know, but I'm guessing that's the case. Either that, or you were really lucky. So I think a lot of fun. The detail, the lightning strikes are nice. I can see some very subtle striations in the clouds that may indicate there may be some rain back there, and that works out really nicely. The hills are nicely there. I would have wondered if we could see a little bit more detail in the hills that are sort of in the midground or background a little bit, especially with long exposures, but maybe that wasn't the case there. I also noticed a very slight sort of it's a very, very slight haloing between the sky and the edges of the mountains I see towards the middle of the shot, but not enough that's overly distracting. All in all, though, wonderful capture, interesting colors, a good play of the color, the purples and the reds. I like the fact that your clouds are really dark at the top, so there's a sort of bounding element. I might actually add a little bit more vignette on the sides and towards the bottom to emphasize a little bit more of the framing element, but that's a small point. Thank you.
A winter's morning in Yosemite Valley.
All right, this is fun. What strikes me initially when this first pops up is color. I mean, I have the white background, I got the yellow, I got the green, I got the orange, and I got the blue. And there's lots of color going on here, almost to the detriment of the colors that are beginning to compete with each other. I like the orange and the green and the yellow. That blue background there bothers me just a little bit. It just doesn't seem real. And if this were my shot, I would really spend some time selecting the blue area, even with a color selection tool might work, and seeing if I can't tone down that, take away a little bit of the cyan in there to maybe make the backdrop a more realistic backdrop for that orange. But those elements aside, I really like how you've got the small clump of the trees with the base of white, a second level of trees in the background with variation in tone from dark to lights. That works out nicely. And then the splashes of orange. But you did a nice job of making sure that most of the brightest parts of those oranges are not at the top, but towards the center of that whole collection. So nicely seen again. A lot of fun stuff. Thank you.
Camouflage.
Okay, fun. This is a really bright image in terms of the color. I mean, that reddish orange just comes out and blasts at you. And so your eye immediately goes there. And then you go to the dark area, that swath of darkness in the middle there. And there's that little pigeon just peeking out there. And so sort of fun stuff here. You're playing games in my mind with over 3/4 of the image is that bright orange red, and yet there's that bird just peeking out. In this case there, I think you could still retain this, but add some significant vignetting to really pull myself away from the lower bottom edge and see if you can't get my eye more focused towards the middle and maybe towards the base of the neck of the pigeon. Get me focused there. And I would try that by adding a fairly heavy vignette. A little bit on the top, more on the bottom to get me focused in there. You want to play with where my eye goes. Lots of neat elements there. Wonderful contrast between the bird and that dark swash. Just a lot of bright red that you got to contend with to try to see if you can't pull me a little bit more to the main subject. Nice job. Thank you.
Alcatraz window.
I love this. This is a story and a story and a story. First, you got the window. You got how dirty it is, the weathering on the window, and the foreground of the stuff on this side of the window is one element. Then you got the scene behind that, and how it's broken up, and how you really can't tell what it is, but Alcatraz, so that gives you a feeling of timelessness, a little feeling of dinginess, a little feeling of distress, a wistfulness. All that is you can really appreciate if you're just sitting there in the dark staring through this window. And you also have this wonderful color play going on here. Just as a pictorial, this is great. There's a story there. My imagination goes crazy as to what the story might be, and I begin to put myself in that place and wonder how I might feel being there. If you got me thinking about that, you've done a wonderful job. Thank you.
The Blue Hour, San Francisco Bay.
Okay. It's a fairly classic shot here, but every shot I see with this bridge is just wonderful. The Bay Bridge here, I love this. You know, there's the symmetry, the lines, the brightness on them is great. I love the the smaller aperture that you use, the higher F numbers you've used to get those starbursts to show up. That happens at anywhere from F16 to F22, somewhere around there. You start using those, and all of a sudden you start getting those radiating little starbursts, and that works out very nicely. Longer exposure here. Look how smooth that water is. Oh, it looks like there's a shark right in the middle. I don't know if that's a shark fin or not, but it's fun to think about it that way. And then, you know, the great angle. I like your composition. I like how the bridge is flowing through the image. And even at that angle, the base is definitely straight, but it's coming up and into the image. So there's a sense of flow. All that's done nicely there. Congratulations. I never tire at seeing these shots. And it doesn't matter if everybody in the world is taking this shot. The important thing is you took it, and you should be proud of that. Thank you.
Coastal Northwest Panorama.
All right. Lots of interesting stuff going on here. I almost see two completely different images. I see the image of the foreground and that driftwood poking up, and you know it's all very clear, fairly sharp and fairly clear. And then I have the background with a misty quality to it, with multiple layers going on. And then on top of that, I have a very, very bright sky with a little bit of edging on the top here. And to my eye, everything's competing with everything. We got lots of detail going down in the foreground. We have a couple bright spots here, but nothing is really highlighted as being the most important thing. Here, if this were my image, I would be really tempted to really darken that immediate foreground. And to me, yeah, that adds something to it. But if I brought that down, did some vignetting on the side and maybe darken the top a little bit, I can get your eyes to focus into maybe that driftwood and the wonderful layering we get with the detail there, and the rest becomes setting. You could also do some cropping, maybe cropping a little bit on the right or left, depending on how much of the background you want to get rid of. Finally, I do see a little bit of haloing around the driftwood sticking up. I would address that a little bit. But as I see here, there's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of stuff is competing, and I just am having a difficulty getting into the image because my eye keeps getting yanked all over the place. Thank you.
Serenity.
Yeah. Nice title. I think it really emphasizes that. Here, not only have you taken a wonderful shot with the great reflections, but then you've done a little bit of processing on it to give it a more picturesque type of feel to it. And given your title, it's not the scene, but the feeling the scene gives you, which is the message. And so I can accept the fact that I don't necessarily have all that detail. I'm enjoying the rippling in the water. That gives me a sense of flow going on there. It's not just mirror bright. And I like the fact that not only do you have the color in the sky is important, as important element as anything else, but you got that reflection of it going on. Lots of neat things. Again, I keep saying this, but I want to get pulled into the shot a little bit. So I definitely would try a little bit of vignetting around the outside. Notice where the brightest part is. Well, it's sort of that blue area and sort of towards the top. And yes, that sky is important, but if you can pull my eye down just a little bit from that sky to the middle part, then the whole serene part may come out a little bit more. Give it a try, and you may be surprised what the very slight vignetting does around the outside, what it does to the overall feel of the image. Give it a try and see. Thank you.
Loose patchwork. Recently plowed land contrasts with the golden green of wheat and garbanzo planting.
Fun. Boy, you know, this is really a classic image of the Palouse area. I haven't been there. And I hope to get there sometime, but nice job in giving us both the undulation of the hills, the differing patterns you see both with shadows and crops and the different states. Just a wonderful patchwork of all sorts of interesting, fun stuff. I like your background. I like your foreground. Your midground's a little bit empty, but you know, that's the way it is. So cool stuff. Yeah, one could argue that there's so much going on, you might get a little bit lost, but for some reason, I don't get that feeling when I look at this. Perhaps as you have that wonderful strip of light hills undulating through the image in the middle, separated by the even dark parts, and it's easy for me to focus there. Immediately shift my eyes to the white buildings I see in the middle, and the fact that the upper part and the lower part are a little bit dark gives me some nice framing elements. I don't find myself in this image being as lost as I have been in other images. Nice job. Thank you.
White.
Okay, so here we took a shot of the wonderful spider and applied some sort of a filters to it to make it a little bit more surreal, and then it really played with the tonal qualities. And I think it's a very successful job here. Just a fun one. There's enough detail to appreciate some of the detail of the spider, yet there's a minimalist feel to this as well. That the background, while there, is very, very subtle. And so the subtlety works out nicely. Some nice framing elements from the bottom element to that angled thing that the edge, I guess the edge of a paper, edge of a branch, edge of something that the spider's on, that becomes the leading line and a framing element from one edge flowing into the image. But I do notice that I see maybe there are trees in the background, something, but enough very, very subtle detail that I acknowledge that there's something there and perhaps a bit of depth involved with this image, which now brings to my mind the subject forward. All nice stuff. Nice job. Thank you.
Pictorial Masters, 9 images.
Morning Junco.
All right, great. When I saw this, I really enjoyed it, and I had to ask myself why. You know, it's a nice portrait for a nature shot, but what you've done is not only have you given me the Junco and a nice setting for that, but you first did a treatment on the bird itself to give it an artistic feel, and you added a texture to it. And that really gives me a feeling of this nice pictorial, artistic view, and just gives it a whole nother life. Nice job. You know, sharp enough in the eyes and the beak, yet nice consistent texture throughout there. Nice watercolorish type of feel, but with a texture type of stucco or canvas type of setting. I don't know what it is, but it just has a nice artistic feel to it. I don't know if I would have changed anything here. Nice job. Thank you.
Giraffe.
All right. You know, as classic as these shots are, this is still just excellent. The symmetry of these animals, and that's what they do. They like to cross their necks and rub against each other. One of their modes of interaction. And here you just really found just a nice symmetrical shot that really pulls them together. The detail and the sharpness of the animals is wonderful. The grassland is nicely receding the background. Wonderful background of sky behind that. But none of that really competes with it. Yeah, is the background a little bit bright, but I don't find that the background competes with the animals, and I have no trouble with enjoying the animals and seeing where they are here. I don't know if I would change anything here, just a nice symmetrical shot. One could expand the canvas on either side a little bit, but I think what you got here works very nicely. Thank you.
A Thing of Beauty.
Hey, nice. Oh, this is a lot better when I recall seeing that. This is really a simple image. Again, I love these concept of something emerging from the background. Here, your composition is excellent. Lots of, I think all the space you have around the element is wonderful. Your exposure is great. I can see all the detail in there. And I really sort of liking the fact that you only see the edge of the leaves. So the drop off of light is very, very effective as well. So all that says nicely. Just remind, I might try to add a little more detail and leave up there, but that would be something I would just try. Maybe I did that, added a little bit and decided it didn't quite give the message, and this is where you wanted to go. So that's sort of a personal stance. I like here the mystery of the gaps in the leaves and the subtlety. My imagination fills in the rest because you have the leading lines, both front and back on the upper leaf, and then that wonderful fall off of light from the tip down towards the bloom as well. The composition, as I said, is great. The angle is great. Just a nice job. And by the way, I do like the pinstriping around that as well. That really aids in the framing of this image. Thank you.
Crisp Fuyu, ready to eat.
Okay, neat image. I love the color. I love the sharpness. I love the detail in the veins. I'm really enjoying those things. I love I love the flow you have from the upper left to the lower right in terms of the stem yielding to the veins, which yield to the larger vein, which leads to tip. All that works very nicely. But the one thing that bothered me almost immediately, though, was the fact that that stem went off the edge. This is so easy on this image to add more black space all around it. And if you want, I can tell you later, there's an easy way in Photoshop of expanding the canvas and giving that just a little bit more space. I think if you had just more black space around all of this image a little bit, it would really be a lot. There would just be a little bit more singularity to the image itself. But aside from that one point there, nice job. Again, I love these types of images, and I love how you're letting the texture and the color work to your advantage and using the veins of your subject to become the leading lines. Thank you.
No swimming at Goat Rock Beach today.
Okay, fun stuff here. Neat. You got a wonderful beach shot here. There's sort of two there's the beach part, and then there's the rock part with the water there, and they're almost 50-50. But in this case, that works. You have a wonderful leading line of that. I guess that's some sort of tree limb or tree in the sand that's giving me this wonderful leading line. That works out nicely. Is this straight? Well, it's straight if you consider the rock. It's not so straight if you consider the beach. Which is better? I don't know. It all depends on what you do there. Because there's a sense of energy of that water moving, the fact that it's slightly tilted to the bottom doesn't bother me as much as it might if that wasn't there. I think one of the powers of this shot is all that detail in the active and the detail, the flowing mist coming off the water, the energy of the waves, and I might add a little bit of micro contrast and a little bit more, darken that just a little bit to see if I can't bring it out just a little bit more of that energy in there, because I think it's such an important part. But that aside, very interesting shot, lots of fun stuff going on, and just a pleasant shot to see. Thank you.
Capturing the light.
Fun. Even without that photographer there, still be a gorgeous, picturesque, artistic shot. And then you have that photographer there. And it's just not a person there. He's taking that image. He's doing a very unusual angle. He's striving to capture the light. And so you have the vehicle for capturing it, which is the camera. And what is all around that camera? The brightest part of the image, the light. And so there's a subtlety there that really works to your advantage here. And I'm really liking that. The parallel lines between the photographer, the tree trunk, and the trunk and the secondary tree trunk all work out nicely. You got those branches emanating that give us some interesting stuff on the top, interesting foreground versus background. All that works nicely. Wonderfully artistic shot. Nice job. Thank you.
Musketeer.
Okay. I'm enjoying this portrait shot because it's not just about the person. There's a story here. There's a story of that person and, you know, her interaction with her mask. But you sort of made her so up close and personal with those eyes. Look how she engages. She's engaging you. When the subject stares directly into the lens of the camera, there's an engagement with the audience. If they're looking off to the side, the audience becomes an observer. So here you immediately have that engagement. Nicely centered. You know, it's as detailed as it needs to be. I have no problem with that. I have fun looking at those lenses and wondering if I can see reflections. You know, the exposure is great. Just a lot of wonderful things there. But all in all, just a wonderful image that just engages you immediately and really lets that story come through. Wonderful title as well. Thank you.
Strawberry Leaves in Autumn.
Okay, another one of these shots here. And in this case, I think that the maker did a nice job of giving space around that. And now here, wonderful. It's as sharp as it needs to be. So texture plays a big role here. All those veins giving me this sort of spiral emanation of lines leading out works nicely. Wonderful colors. Works together. Just a great shot. Nice scene. I mean, you must have, you know, this is not easy to do, and it's not easy to see those leaves and try to find the way of putting them in this composition that makes those lines work so nicely. So kudos for that. I don't know if I would have changed anything here, but the only thing I might be tempted to do is maybe not use quite as bright a white a border. If you did that in the slight yellow and really toned it down, it would serve the bounding element very effectively, but not be so bright that perhaps it's competing with a shot, but a minor point from that point on. Nice job. Thank you.
Me and My Leaf.
Oh, fun. You know, good job. Good job here. You know, fun stuff here. There's sort of a treatment done with the entire image that's giving us a sort of a feel. What's the sharpest part? Well, it happens to be the muzzle, but the eyes aren't quite as sharp as the muzzle, but they're sharp enough, and there's enough contrast that you really still feel a connection to that. The whites of the eyes, maybe, you know, I think is very, very effective and essential for this to really work. And so you have the wonderful face of the monkey there, but then you've really done a nice job of having that edging around the leaf, which makes it a predominant part. And the interaction between those two is very evident as the image shows and as supported by your title. I don't know if I would change anything. Just a nice job. Fun. It'd be fun to see what this image started out being versus where you ended. It'd be fun just to see that and see that transition. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take a break for about 5 to 10 minutes. Whoop, got to get the title back. One moment.
Fork-tailed bush katydid, Scuderia fricata.
Nice job with the Latin name. Oh, fun image here. First, the critter is very clear, and you know, I think that's an excellent job. Lots of interesting detail from the tips of the wings, the detail in the wings, the eyes, the hairs on the legs. It's all there, and that's very nice. But pictorially, this is also a fun image. That angle of the, you know, coming from the edge into the image and having the secondary sort of orange image on what he's on all works very nicely as well. So although pictorial quality isn't as important, it's still an important image here, and it really does a nice job for pulling this together. I like the subtle little vignetting you've added around the edges. I think that really pulls my eye towards the middle, and that's where it should be. So nice job. Thank you.
Southern white rhinoceros, Ceratotherium, Simon, Waterberg area, Namibia.
Okay. So here again, a portrait shot of the rhino. We've lost a little bit on the top, but there's good detail with the face and the haunches of the animal, the ears, the nose, all that works out very nicely. I like the fact that he's coming towards us, and that works out well as well. In nature, you can dodge and burn, and I would have been tempted a little bit to burn a little bit of the background to see if I can't darken that out because it's awfully bright. But that is, aside from that, a nice rendition of the animal. Thank you.
Finding a bit of magic. Amanita muscaria, also known as the fly agaric, is deeply rooted in the shamanic traditions of the Northern Hemisphere.
Right, nice job seeing this very colorful mushroom. I like what you're trying to do with the image. The composition is great. You know, the mushroom with the colors is very prevalent, and you give us a lot of detail of the stuff around it. I like the fact that things are on top of that, which gives us a feeling of its being in its environment. The exposure, I think you missed a little bit. It is pretty bright, and we're losing a significant amount of detail, especially towards the cap of the mushroom. And although pictorial quality isn't as important, the pictorial quality of the main subject should be quite good in order to show it off. And I don't think you quite accomplished that here. I think you have to play a little bit with the exposure to see if you can bring that down and to make it so the cap and all the detail in the cap is a little bit more prevalent and looks a little nicer. Thank you.
Nature Intermediate, 4 images.
Towering and curious Angolan giraffes, Giraffa Carmelopardalis angolensis, Etosha National Park, Namibia.
Okay, here's another giraffe shot. Again, the two guys sit them together and either they're crossing or they're giving us a classical V. And this works out nicely. Nice view of them though. Being so tall animals, it's fun to see how they interact with their environment and how the background behind them changes significantly, from the bright plains to the wood to the acacia trees behind that and to the other types of antelope that are there, and then the blue sky works out nicely. So they're framed very nicely in their environment, yet the actual critters themselves are very clear, very prominent. It's somewhat of a portrait shot, and they're just sitting there looking at us, but sometimes that's the best you can get. So nice job. Thank you.
The thread-waisted wasp, Ammophila procera, walks across the flower head in search of prey. Also known as a mud dauber, the female paralyzes its prey, then takes it back to the nest as food for her egg.
All right, neat shot here, very clear. Your composition here is just excellent. The wasp itself is as clear as it needs to be. It blurs a little bit back towards the back, but that's okay. Gives me a feeling of dimension there, and that doesn't hurt at all. The front parts of it, very, very clear, from the antenna, the legs, the eyes, the thorax, even parts of the wing, very sharp. And it's a very clean shot, where look at how that background is blurred out a bit, and so it just emphasizes the subject. And I'm also sort of enjoying the texture of the foreground and how the wasp is on that. So it gives me a feeling of its environment and doing the things. All in all, just pictorially a nice shot, and as a nature, also a very nice shot. Wouldn't change anything here. Thank you.
This snowy plover, Charadrius nivosus, is between its winter and breeding plumage. The snowy plover is a shorebird, and its conservation status is near threatened.
Okay. All right. You know, as a portrait shot for nature, this is great. The bird is just sitting there, but he's in the environment. He's in the water. There's some surf moving around him. I think your exposure is spot on. I don't see any parts of the bird that is overexposed. I can see detail in the wings. I can see detail all throughout there. And yet the fall off of your sharpness towards the background, your depth of field is nicely done here. Gives me a nice clean background. Just a nice portrait of this bird showing me it in its environment. And I think that's a great job. Thank you.
Pasture hunt, one of 3. Great blue heron, Ardea herodias, commonly seen at the water's edge, also hunt in pastures. This juvenile has locked attention on something near multiple gopher mounds. With lightning speed, the juvenile heron uncoils and spears its beak into the ground. Frogs and mice in motion are usually the heron's victims. This time, an unlucky mole is plucked out from below the surface. After a number of lethal shakes, the mole is swallowed in one big gulp.
All right. In this case, I think these three images in a sequence really work well together. One of the attributes of sequences is that the sum of the three must be greater than any one image. And I think in this case, you really, your combination of the three really show the activity going on in a nice job. There's difficult shots to take. You get some really, really bright grass here. And then the heron is, it's clear, but it's not as sharp as it might be. But, we're willing to put up with those things to see the activity and something unique about the animal. I think you achieve that very nicely here. If these were my shots, I would have definitely been tempted to maybe darken some of that background. Let's see the next shot. And the next one. Yeah. And the first two, notice how on the base of this now is so much more pleasing than in the other two shots. I would have definitely intended to darken the base of both of the first two shots. And this one is just an excellent shot in and of itself. I will admit that I was amazed at the size of that mole relative to the bird. And that was pretty amazing. But the combination of all these makes for a nice series of shots. Good job. Thank you.
Nature Advanced, 7 images.
A male flame skimmer, Libellula saturata, known for its dark orange coloration, including eyes, legs, and even wing veins, rests on his perch after a long day of hunting soft-bodied insects.
Okay, nice job on capturing the most important parts of the bird. The flame skimmer. The detail in the wings are just wonderful. I don't mind the fact that they drop off on the end. Your depth of field was a challenge here, as it is for small things. But nice job at the eyes, the thorax, parts of the wings, and the legs. Very nice. Even the texture on the leaf it's sitting on works out very nicely. Composition is excellent. The background is nice and clean. So it's a very clean shot, which really emphasizes the flame skimmer. Finally, your colors are just magnificent as well. Nice job.
Backlick ribes.
Yeah, so here we're sort of highlighting these animals, these plants. As a nature shot, I think, yeah, this fits as nature, but this is not a real compelling nature shot. The fact that you have that white framing backlighting of all those leaves and stems makes this more of a pictorial shot than a real nature shot. I really don't get a view of what the plants are doing, why they're unique, what you're trying to teach me about those. I just have backlit plants. So I think this may be more appropriate as pictorial. And as a pictorial, then you can start deleting some of the things you can't in the nature shot. If this were pictorial, I would get rid of that little element on the left mid, that little element shown up here. But interesting shot. I think a stronger pictorial than nature. Thank you.
A female green sweat bee, Agapostemon on Physalia. Males typically have abdomen striped with yellow and black only, lacking green color.
Wow. I mean, this is magnificent. Look at the detail on that insect. Look at the structure of the eye, all the little hairs, the coloration, all that works out very nicely. And how he's nestled in all those plant parts, I think works out wonderfully. Your depth of field again is excellent. Look at that nice soft background, nothing there distracting. So here you got a nice shot of the insect itself. I like how it's nestled in that environment, so we get a sense of that. And yet the detail is just wonderful. Wouldn't change a thing. Nice job.
Witch's butter. This wood rot fungus, Tremella mesenterica, is edible, though bland, and has been used in Chinese medicine for cancer prevention. It is now being investigated by Western medicine.
All right, so good portrait shot of fungi. You know, to me, to my mind, yes, this is nature as well, but this has a lot more pictorial qualities and nature qualities to my mind. Nice detail in the leaves around it and the wood it's on. Nice sort of reflections off the surface of the plants. You've got the different fungi. It's sort of hard to see the dimensionality of the fungi because there's a couple of overexposed parts. Being that this is part of the fungi, I would have really focused more upon them, and I would have tried to give me more of a sense of the fungi itself and less is emphasizing the environment it's in. Showing the fungi in the environment make this more pictorial than I think as a compelling nature shot, although it does belong in it is appropriate for the nature category. Thank you.
A barnacle-encrusted gray whale breaches in Magdalena Bay on the Pacific coast of Baja California. The barnacles are host-specific, found only on grays, which may support colonies of up to 1,000 pounds.
Okay, nice shot of a breaching whale. There's some fun stuff here. I think, catching it just mid-breach is a nice job. And I love all that water coming off of one of the flukes. Good background. I love that, half of you got sky versus water, and that works out as well. Nice composition in terms of the angle. You really captured that. The only thing that's a little disappointing is the sharpness of the whale itself. And yes, that sharpness of the subject is the part of the pictorial quality of it, which we de-emphasize a little bit in nature, but the subject itself needs to be sharp enough to carry the day. And I find myself just being a little disappointed on the upper third, the upper half of that whale, and that it's just a little bit soft and blurry. And I think that's critical since that's the main subject here. Tough thing to do though. So nice attempt though. Thank you.
EDC dragon, Philopteryx teneolatus, are carnivorous animals. They use their pipe-like snout to suck prey into their oddly toothless mouth. They're members of the seahorse family.
Oh, fun. Nice job. Underwater photography is tough, and you did a wonderful job here. Look at the detail, both from the fins to the scaling on it, to the eyes and the snout and the head. Oh, that's wonderful. Yet the background has fallen off such that it's not competing with the seahorse. It's just framing it and giving us a sense of an environment. Yet here we have this wonderful creature who very few of us have ever really seen. So nice job in giving it to us. I don't know if I would have changed much here. I don't find any really big distracting elements. I see a nice separation of the animal, the critter, from the background, and the presentation of the animal is very clear. So all those things work out very nicely here. Thank you.
Juvenile osprey in flight. The juvenile represents the adult osprey, except for the buff tipped feathers on the back of their upper body and the brown-orange eyes that turn yellow with maturity.
Okay, neat action shot. Very sort of a interesting pose with them forward and coming from there, and that gives us a sort of a nice pictorial feel to this as well as to the nature. You caught him mid-flight in activity, and that works out nicely. Notice how that eye is very, very sharp. And that head is sharp enough so we immediately get pulled right into that eye, because as humans we tend to go look for the faces. We see that there, and then our view starts emanating out to the wonderful detail on the wings, the trailing feathers, and the foreground feathers. All that works out nicely. One unfortunate thing with this kind of pose, though, is that the head itself tends to blend in with the background a little bit. Nothing you can do about it, but that's why often that's why a lot of really, really good, compelling nature shots don't have this kind of pose for just that reason. And that if the wings weren't swept quite as forward or his head was protruding a little bit farther, they tend to be a little more compelling because the separation is there. But aside from that, nice shot. Good job. I wish I could get shots like this. Thank you.
Nature Masters, 6 images.
The simplicity of a common housefly briefly landing on a leaf in the garden.
Hey, yeah, okay. So we have this critter here, and he's sitting on an environment. He's fairly sharp, but the pictorial, yes, pictorial quality isn't as important to nature, but this one, I think you've really stretched far too much, and that there's a graininess throughout. There's no real clear parts that fly. Parts are blurry, parts aren't. There's not a uniform sharpness in the body. It just, honestly, this just doesn't fit the bill for a master's quality shot. It has this feeling to me like it was really enlarged. It was really cropped in small and enlarged to try to make the fly the main player, but you're suffering. The quality of the shot is such that it's distracting from the entire image. And while quality isn't as critical, when the quality isn't there and it distracts from the total image, it's not as good thing. Thank you.
Non-breeding ring-billed gull, Larus delawarensis, begins his takeoff from Ellis Creek.
To me, this is an exceptional shot. Not only is the bird well shown, not only are his face, the wings, the feet very, very tack sharp. The eye and the beak are just absolutely crystal clear. But look at how we've captured the water and the flow in there. So there's a sense of energy here as well. You got the ripples in the water, which tend to form a nice base for what we see. And then you have that wonderful background with very, very subtle striations in the background indicating something's there. And that adds a sense of depth of this as well. Just a wonderful shot taken at just the right time. Nice fast shutter speed to catch the water there. Clear with the animal, and yet a sense of motion and a sense of fluidity involved with this as well. Nice job. Thank you.
Large sea ducks, surf scoters, Melanita perspicillata, defy ocean waves in the high surf off Pinnacle Gulch, Bodega Bay, California.
Okay, so we're seeing that these scooters are playing in the surf plane, or they're swimming in the surf, and that's good information. However, I'll challenge you in this way. What's the sharpest part of the image? Well, it's really the wave and the detail in the wave. And so the birds themselves have very little detail. They're silhouette. So it's hard for them to really carry the show as the main subject. Yet your title indicates that they are, but I can't really see them as much as I might. And the fact that the wave is sharper than the animals tends to pull myself into that wave and a little bit away from the animals. And I think that's not quite the thing you want with a nature shot. But it's a tough way to go, and these are tough critters to get. But I think as pictorial, this really has a lot more quality into it, because now I would enjoy both the different sharpness in different areas, the action going on, the background and the foreground. All those things have a little bit more play in it as pictorial. Thank you.
A turkey vulture swallows by raising its head slightly and moving its tongue forward and backward. The nictitating membrane shields the eye from splashes. Spring Lake, Santa Rosa.
Okay, fun, neat one, nice sharp image. You got the bird in action. What really works is the water dripping from the beak. That gives me a sense of action, gives me a sense that he's in the middle of doing something, and it's not just a portrait shot. Nice and clear. The face is very clear. The feathers in the fur is very clear. Your depth of field is excellent as well. All those things work. I might complain that, I can't see his eye because it sort of looks whitish, but your title answers the question as to why. You're demonstrating that nictitating membrane, and that's the reason why. So now it belongs. It's part of the activity. It's part of the natural part of the bird, and you're showing it there. Good idea for indicating that in the title, because it then makes the image that much more powerful. Thank you.
Common buckeye, Junonia cuenea Hubner, is named for its conspicuous target-shaped eye spots. It's seen year-round and is quite wary of close approach. It posed briefly on this celosia to get nectar.
All right, nice. Just a great shot of him just feeding. You really did emphasize the spots, and I think they show up very nicely here. It's the butterfly is a bit centered, but the planet it's on isn't, and so I think that hangs together quite a bit. There's a lot of the background is soft, but it does seem to be a little competing a little bit. Had this been my shot, I might have been tempted to blur that background a little bit more and maybe dark it, which are things you can do in nature, just not to a huge extent. But aside from that, nice job. Nice, very clear, fun image. Thank you.
There are half as many lion in Africa than 25 years ago, so every lion cub is crucial to the survival of the species. Panthera leo, Kenya.
Okay, fun, neat. Lots of neat things there. You got both the two cubs there. One cub you got mid-stride coming forward. You got the interaction between the mother and the cub. I love how that cub is just nestled in among the mother's paws. I don't even mind the fact that one of the cubs is a little bit blurry. That just indicates there's some action going on, so that it just seems to fit nicely. All in all, a great shot here. Wonderful background. Gives me a nice sense of the interaction between the two, and that things are happening. Lots of neat stuff here. Thank you.
Monochrome basic, 4 images.
Old oak that survived the Kincaid fire.
Nice job here. These are wonderful shots, and one of the challenges with monochrome is try to isolate the subject with its complexity from the background. And of course, here it's done a wonderful job. But you gave me a sense of not only the fact that the tree is there with a black background, but the time and place with all those stars. And I think that's a lot of fun here. There's enough detail I can really enjoy the tree itself. There's a nice range of blacks and lights in the whole image, and all in all, just a nice shot. I might have been, well, I don't know, the cropping. I might be tempted a little bit to try to even the cropping out a little bit, but it all depends on, that's a subjective thing, and I'm going to withdraw that comment as being a negative thing. It's just different. Thank you.
Raindrops on oak leaves.
Okay, good job here at controlling where our eye goes. First, we have no trouble focusing on the leaves, but the leaves are not static. They're active, and all those different water droplets, big and small, really pulls that segregation of that variation of the different drops really pulls us there into that leaf. And then we go down to the leaf below with all the interesting structure. And I think what was even as effective was that that third one there. That little guy there fills that space and gives me a little bit more sense of balance. The background is also sort of interesting as well. It isn't just black. There's just some variation of something going on here. As a monochrome, though, very, very effective. Thank you.
I've got my eye on you.
Right. Again, as a monochrome, this is a very effective image. First, your exposure is spot on. Look at in the whites. Look at the amount of detail we can see in the feathers and the fuzz on his neck, around his eye, in the body there. Even that, I guess that's towards on the grayer part. On the left is also lots of neat detail, and how that's nicely contrasted with the background behind it. I love it how the animal itself is the brightest part of the image, so I'm focused right there. But you caught enough of the eye, especially with that glint, to make that important. If that glint wasn't there, the image would be nowhere near as powerful as what you do have. Nice job. Thank you.
Waiting for dinner.
Okay, fun. Nice monochrome image. Not, lots of lights and darks here, lots of interesting detail. Good job. You really show me this critter and all the interesting detail of it. Also a nice portrait shot for nature. Maybe not as compelling as some, but still a possible shot. I've liked where you framed it. I've liked the composition you've chosen. Just makes him stand out. I enjoy both the head, the torso, and begin to look at all the details surrounding it. And I can't help but then radiate out along all the little web lines that you've captured here as well. I don't think I would have changed anything here. Good job. Thank you.
Monochrome intermediate, 4 images.
Due north.
Okay, there's a simplicity here into it, and you got this wonderful spire shape going up that leads us from the bottom right up there. But not only is that spire leading us up, but look at all the variety of leading lines, either in the walkway or in the cable stay that we're looking right down, and the curvature we have in there, all leading us up to that final area, that final spire in the middle there. We got enough detail in the wider parts to still understand stuff is going on there. All that works out very nicely here. I'm just enjoying it. But the only thing I might do, I would be tempted to take that black spire at the very, very top and delete it, to clone it right out. It sort of leads me right out of the picture. I get my leading lines leading right up to that, and then I got this little thing that goes, beep, let's go out. And I don't think you need it there. I think you clone all that black spire, that black rod there away, and still retain the qualities that make this shot so interesting. Thank you.
Botanical lace.
Oh, nice job here. Again, the kind of thing, I love that concept of emerging from the darkness, and that's what you have in this image. Lots of detail. Look at how the light, though. Look at the play, the fall off of light. The very, very, very center is a little dark, and then you have this white halo around it. And then as you go out, it gets a little darker and darker and darker. And I think that's masterful. That's the kind of thing you want to get. That gives me a sense of depth. It gives me a sense of it coming towards me. It pulls me to the middle, and I just enjoy that fall off and gets me refocused to the middle. And as such, then I'm now enjoying all the detail I see throughout the structure as well. Good job. Thank you.
San Hunter, Namibia.
Wonderful portrait here. Wonderful job of both seeing the subject and then capturing it. The detail in the face, the squinting of the eyes, and the lines around there just gives me a feeling how he's adapted to his environment. The angle you've chosen, look at the shading on the jaw and the back there. And yet still his torso shows up nicely. And then the club he has, or the stick he has, ceremonial stick he has there, works as well. The background is blurring out nicely, so you can see the subject standing out somewhat from the background because the subject is much more clear. In this case, though, I think some of that background is beginning to compete with the subject. If this were my image, I definitely would have selected that background elements, and I would have darkened them significantly to really get them. I think if you go back and do that, select that background where all that shrub is, and maybe some of those white sticks that are there, either get rid of some of the white sticks, clone them out, or if you darken that, I think what you're going to find is your subject just comes right out of the screen towards you, and you'll get a much greater feeling of three-dimensionality in here, and your subject will be so much more prominent. Thanks.
Minimart.
Okay, just a place, point in time. Here it is. Take a look at it. Lots of interesting stuff. You got all the different graphics going on there. You got the different textures on the sidewalk, the textures on the brickwork, the wonderful lines and the grills. Lots of just fun stuff going on, and so I'm sort of enjoying that. And your sky is very good too. It's not just old sky. It's a little bit of character on there. So I'm enjoying all those things. There's a lot of other detail in there on the edges. I wonder, I'd ask you, do you need all those lines in there. If you got rid of all those phone lines there, would that add a little bit more simplicity? If you cloned out some of the tree on the left-hand side, put in some sky there instead of the trees, would that add a little bit more simplicity to it? I don't know if that would make this better. It would make it different, but give those things a try. Spend some time and see if that matters. It's up for you to decide. Thank you.
Monochrome Advanced, 7 images.
Sandstone and Tafoni, Salt Point State Park.
All right, yeah, this is an interesting shot. The very first thing that dawns on me when I look at this is, wow, there's a lot going on, and my eyes having a hard time alighting on what's happening. There's some detail that's being shown with all the different rock formations with the little pop marks all throughout there. That adds a sense of texture and detail. In the middle, I have a different type of detail, a smattering of brighter spots in the very, very center and towards the top and a little bit on the right edge. I have silhouettes. I've got some elements in there. I just got a lot going on here. And frankly, I'm having a little difficulty trying to focus on any one part to really enjoy it. I'm just scattering around. And because I'm scattering around, I'm just not appreciating anything as much as I think you saw when you were there. So I'm not quite sure what the solution is here. Maybe different cropping. Maybe you cut out, there may be images in this image that maybe will alleviate that. It'd be something I need to play from. Definitely, though, a challenging shot. Thank you.
Big Dune Drama.
All right, here, wonderful texture shots. I love that you waited late in the afternoon to get some of those shadowing for the dunes. That always works out very effectively there. That leads to some wonderful leading lines that pull us from the lower right up into the image and then back to the center. You get some nice framing elements of dark about midway through the image, and you have a wonderful sky. Lots of interplay here. One might argue that the sky is competing a little bit with the dunes, but I think that's sort of the feeling here, that drama of one competing with the other, of there being lots of detail, lights and darks, and that it's all there in a smush. That is what you saw when you were there. All aids to the feeling of this shot. Thank you.
Frills.
All right, as a monochrome image, an interesting image. We got some interesting lights, some darks, lots of detail, but I think you're going to know what some of my comments are here. What am I supposed to look at? I'm having a hard time really focusing on one thing. I try to focus on the middle, and then I get pulled down to the bottom, and then I go to the top. My eye darts all around. And so, yes, I think the story is the complexity of all the detail that you see. And that's probably what you saw when you took this image, but it's a hard concept to portray. Here, definitely, I would try to pull my attention towards the middle type of structure by adding some subtle. First, I'd add some significant vignetting around the outside, but maybe in the on the lower mid part, I might darken that a little bit. In certain clumps here, I would try to change the overall shading just a little bit, so maybe I could get some parts of this to come out just a little bit more than others, which will aid in me being comfortable with looking at the whole shot. Sort of techniques we got to use in situations like that to get our eyes a little bit more comfortable at seeing the vision that you saw when you were there. Thank you.
Fishing on a wild, foggy morning.
Nice here. There's a wonderful mood shot. And a couple reasons why this really works well. First, your angle, being low and looking upward and seeing the small fisherman in the midst of all the shoreline really works. good job at capturing that fishing line. That line of the line from the tip of the fishing pole to the edge there is very effective at a framing element and pulls us in there. But you also did a wonderful job at capturing the surf, which gives me a sense of energy, a sense of motion going on here. And finally, I do like the fact that you chose not to make that fisherman totally as a black silhouette, but gave me a little bit of detail. I think all are very effective in this monochrome image. Is that background pretty bright? Yes, but the contrast as being a partial or pseudo silhouette is very effective in this case. Nice job. Thank you.
Not so long ago.
Okay, I'm going to contrast this image with some of the comments I made before. Here, there's a lot of stuff going on, but I'm not having a difficulty at focusing on the bed of the wagon and the detail around that. I have no problem with focusing initially there and then letting the rest of the environment impinge upon me. And so there, I find this to be a very pleasant shot, and I don't find myself grasping at what I'm supposed to be looking at. I get pulled right into the bed of the wagon. I'm interested in what those things are in the wagon that were a part of it, perhaps. The wheels give me a nice framing element, and yet you have a wonderful sense of texture and angles and lines and all the structure besides. Finally, as a monochrome, very nicely done. There's, your tonal range is excellent. Notice, though, that generally speaking, the image is a little brighter in the forefront than it is in the background, except for maybe where that one window is. And that's good. We expect that. So that adds to our sense of depth and dimension. Nice job. Thank you.
Footprints lost by the wind.
Fun. I love this shot. The different textures in the hills, the storyline of the footprints on the top and bottom of that berm are just wonderful. The wonderful flowing elements you have going in different directions just gives me a sense of energy, a sense of flow, a sense of peace, and then a sense of story. There's sufficient number of lights and darks to make this really good, but I have no trouble focusing right at that berm, noticing the footprints, and then following them around there and just enjoying the environment. I wouldn't change this one. My kudos for seeing this and then for taking the time to capture it so well. Thank you.
Containment.
Okay. It's fun, but it's a little mystifying. It initially this looked like an abstract to me. Then I began to understand that we had maybe some muscles there, and then I began to say, well, maybe that's water there. And now I'm beginning to try to figure it out. And so in that way, there's a little mystery there. There's a little bit of wondering where you're really trying to go. Containment. I don't know if I understand the message. I don't understand the relationship between the title and the image. Maybe it's just me. You get these bright areas in the sand or water, whatever it is on the one edge, and that's so bright. And then you get the muscles, which really aren't as bright. And so you got one end competing with another, and it's just sort of losing the impact that I'm trying to capture in this image. Thank you.
Monochrome Masters, 6 images.
Window shadows.
Okay. I just think this is a wonderfully clean image. The combination of the lines, the shading, the bright parts versus the dark parts just is a nice balance. There's a peacefulness to this. You really captured this place in there. But your exposure is excellent. I love the fact that I can just barely see some detail through the window. Man, that's not easy in these kind of shots. So your exposure was right on here. But I love the shadows you have with all the in the railing there. I love the little bit of leading line pulling to the back. It's just very simple yet elegant things here. And the way you've chosen it, the shadows you use, the exposure you use really work very successfully in this monochrome image. Thank you.
polo leather burnished.
Okay, this works as well. Nice. Nice job at seeing this. I marvel when people see this kind of stuff. You know, the shine of the boots and the shine of the knee pads. Perhaps those knee pads, or they might be arm pads too. But the burnish, the leather, the shininess, nicely captured there. I love the fact that you can see the guy in the background doing the shining. That sort of aids to the story, but the whole story is there. As a monochrome, nicely done, nice lights and darks. It's very easy to see your subjects. You're pulled into the shot, and the story's well told. I don't know if I would have changed anything here. I think you did a nice job. Good. Thank you.
One of the last two northern white rhino existing in the world, Kenya.
Okay, I really like this portrait shot. You know, great shot of the rhino. Look at all the detail that you see in there. Your depth of field between the guinea hens that you see there, and then the depth of field dropping off works nicely. Wonderful background with some clouds there. And I'm really enjoying the shading on this animal. Yeah, it's probably during the middle of the day, so the sun is high, and so he's shading down there. But I don't mind losing little bits of detail in the darkest part of that animal, because it just gives me a feeling of depth, a feeling of the density and the size of the animal, that it might cast those kind of shadows. And it just seems to work. It seems to fit. So I'm enjoying that. I don't know if this was the original shot. It does seem to be a little tight. If you cropped it down from a larger shot, I would maybe wonder if you can't revisit that and maybe give me a little bit more space on either side. If not, I would be tempted to even expand the canvas a little bit on both left and the right, and the clone some of the areas of that horizon over to that cloned area to see if I can't give a little bit more space for him to exist in. Thank you.
Approaching storm front at Point Arena.
All right, this is a very artistic shot. It's artistic in that I've lost some of the realism because due to the fact that the cliff face and the rocks have had some sort of treatment done with them. We've lost detail, but purposely so. And yet I don't see that detail applied to the actual lighthouse and to the structures. Also, I don't see that kind of detail, that kind of effect being applied to the water. So we have an interesting combination of detail versus non-detail purposely done, and to give me this type of artistic look. I do notice that maybe the sky is a little noisy besides. I see a lot of graininess there that perhaps you included there and perhaps not. Just an interesting way of looking at things. The realism versus the unrealism part adds an interesting contrast that I think takes some getting used to. I'm not sure I like it, but I can see that it's definitely done purposefully. Thank you.
The bodyguard.
I really like this shot. I think one of the attributes of a really good monochrome image is your use of light to pull us into where you want. And so here, nearly the brightest part of this image is the woman and her dress. And so that really pulls us into her. The other second thing that's really neat is the eyes that are glowing in the animal. Yeah. That's interesting as well. Because we're using light to really pull me in, I would have been tempted to maybe darken the label on the bottle on the far left, and maybe to darken some of the lightness on the brick behind the woman, which will get her to stand out just a little bit more. Here, you're a conductor of light. You're getting light to pull me to the areas I want to see that image. And it's her and that animal. And so that's where you want us to see. The animal's dark, but there's a wonderful lightness around it. So he's not contrasted, so I have no trouble there. But the light on the women, the woman, I think is just exquisite and pulls us in. I would just get rid of some of that background lightness as well. And I think that'll make her stand out even more. Thank you.
Proud men in love.
This is magnificent. I'm sorry. I love these kind of portraits. First, the image itself is great. Their poses is wonderful. You look at the eyes. You got the eyes directly looking at the camera. They're engaged with you as they're engaged with each other. I like the fact that, you know, you've in close enough that you've cut off part of their heads, which imply that you're really getting close. It's the faces that are really showing out. And what do I know that? Well, they're the brightest parts. The details there, the texture in the faces is there. But I just think your composition, your choice of light, and the fact that you have them engaged right with the viewer are all exquisite things here. Not only have I no suggestions to make this better, I'm envious. I just wish I could do as well. Thank you.
Okay. 10-minute break and come back with the awards. And Monochrome Basic. Third place. Fritz.
Whoop, excuse me. This is a picture from our ranch that burned in the Kincaid fire, and this is an oak that I took with some light painting with a headlamp and a second exposure.
Wow, wow, wow.
Beautiful.
Beautifully done.
Yeah.
It's still alive. It's still struggling, but it
Yeah.
might survive.
Come on, get off there.
Hope so. Thankfully.
Come on.
Neat image. I like it, Chris.
Yeah, beautiful tribute to that tree.
Mhm.
Congratulations. Second place. Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, it's
Mm.
gorgeous.
Great image.
Mhm.
Beautiful.
I just love this.
Is Elizabeth here?
She was earlier.
I'm
Beautiful.
jealous. I took it.
Taken with an
Elizabeth.
iPhone. Interesting.
Wow.
Congratulations. First place.
Yeah.
Laura.
All right.
Laura.
Hi, Laura.
Good way to
Way to
start.
start.
This is a winner.
Excellent.
Love it.
Where were you, Laura? That was taken at Ellis Creek.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
Popular for us in Petaluma.
I like you can see the ripples on the lighting on it.
Mm-hmm.
Reflection of the
Yeah, it
ripples.
took me a little bit to figure out what the black spot was as his beak, but then I realized it was the back of his foot.
Yeah.
I love the foot. Nice.
Turned out really great.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Beautiful.
Monochrome Intermediate. 3 images. And I'm puzzled by something here. I may miss. Anyway, honorable mention. Sherry.
Oh, thank you very much. I want to tell you that just a quick story about this. This is Oro Grande on Route 66. And my mother shopped for candy there when she was a little girl.
Oh,
And she had her 80th birthday this summer. We were not able to have the big family party we planned, but what I did was take her on a driving tour of all the homes she lived in as a child.
oh, cool.
So this was from that day. So it has, special significance for me.
Very sweet.
Nice.
Beautiful. I really like it.
Great story.
Congratulations. Second place. Pat.
Oh, thank you very much.
Nice.
Yeah, this is a San Hunter in Namibia, and we were in a kind of a rural area where they're allowed to where they're allowed to live their lives, and it was kind of hard to find this place. We slept in kind of tents there, and they showed us some of their routine ways of living. It And he was very photogenic, obviously. But thank you. And I loved your advice. So I really appreciate that. I agree with you. We need to darken the background a little bit more. Good tips. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. First place, Betsy.
All right, Betsy. Wow.
Cool.
She here tonight?
She was, but she went to bed.
It's like the Sundial Bridge up in
I
Reading.
understand. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yay, Betsy.
Yay.
Very good.
I know it's beautiful.
Congratulations to Betsy.
Wow.
Monochrome Advance, 4 images. Honorable mention, Jennifer.
Oh, thank you. This is near Pinnacle Gulch Beach, and the fog kept coming in and out, and on one of its times out, I saw this man out there, and he looked so peaceful compared to that wild water. I just had to take his photo.
The yin
Great.
yang.
I love the wave.
Great
Yeah.
capture and composition. Really nice.
Thank you.
Just noticed the line. That's great.
Mhm.
Congratulations. Third place, Steve.
Oh,
Mm.
Steve.
Yeah, thanks. This was a
This
bit
time?
of a, yeah, this is from Big Dune on our trip. We just got back. And I took a whole bunch of shots here, some aerial shots, but most of them were just too much going on, just too busy. I couldn't get anything simple, or it was so simple that it was boring. So this is the only one that kind of held up for me from this area, but I love the area. I definitely want to go back. A lot of action. There's guys with 4-wheelers running all over the place up there, and it'd be cool to get some action from those next time I go. Just still shots. Anyway, thanks.
Do you use a drone? Did you? How did you get the aerial shots?
Drone.
Drone. Great.
Yep. Yeah, it's a new DJI Mavic Pro 2 that's got a Hasselblad sensor on it.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. I saw it.
Although it's I must say it's noisy. I have to apply noise reduction to every single image I do, no matter what the exposure is, which I find atrocious. But oh well.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Second place, Phil.
All right, Phil.
Hello. I guess some of you might recognize this from Bodie from our last field trip a couple of years ago. And main thing different here is I used a off-camera remote flash, which I highly recommend if you ever go to visit Bodie, because there are a lot of pictures to be taken of indoor areas that you don't have access to, and they're pretty dark. And so I was able to get a lot of good shots using a flash.
Great.
Cool.
That's a good tip.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
First place, Herb.
Yeah.
Oh, Herb.
Yeah, that was cool.
Oh, wow, thank you. Yeah, this was taken in January of 2020, also in a trip to Death Valley, using a camera that time was new to me, and trying to record RAW on one card and JPEG and the other, whatever. I wound up only having JPEG recorded. And this is a tiny sliver of a large image, but I somehow found it, liked it, and thanks to those who helped with counsel on processing, it came out a way that pleased me. So I'm glad it worked.
It's fantastic.
Really
beautiful. Fun.
Beautiful.
Full picture.
Gorgeous.
Great job. Congratulations. Well deserved.
Congratulations. Monochrome Masters, 3 images. Third place, Mike.
Thank you. This was taken as I was walking around Petaluma one day. I happened to see this gal sitting there with the dog. And you're right about the lighting for sure. I did darken the back a bit, but I certainly could have brought it in more. But thanks a lot. I really appreciate the comments.
Were the eyes like that, the dog's eyes?
Yes. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you considered possibly putting dark slots on the eyes to make them a little less ominous?
No, because that's what was so unusual about the dog was the eyes, and I wanted to bring that out. So
okay,
very cool.
Great.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Second place, Anne.
All right, Anne.
Oh, this was on a trip we took to Williamsburg, Virginia. We went to DC and then we took a side trip. This was a couple of years ago. So I just liked the way the light was coming in the window and casting the shadows on the wood floor. So
Really pleasing.
worth climbing up the stairs.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Very nice.
First place, Terry.
Well, I'm so pleased that everybody liked this so well. Kevin can tell you more about the two gentlemen. A friend and I went to a coffee shop and we all got talking with these guys. And since then, one of them has passed away.
The one on the left.
Yeah. Who was it, Kevin?
The one on the left, that's
The
Donnie.
one on the left, yeah. And they were just really sweet guys and they were very much in love. And they talked about how they'd kind of each saved each other's lives, you know? So there was a lot of feeling there. And I felt
Breaks
they
my
were
heart to
really-
see this.
Pardon?
It breaks my heart to look at this.
I know, I'm sorry, Kevin.
It's a beautiful. It's
Tribute.
Terry, they lived across the road from me, and Daniel, I believe it's Daniel, Greg's husband, walks past our house with his dog every day. I wonder.
I
if
want to
you-
get him this.
A print of this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was going to
definitely.
comment that.
Kevin,
I bet
Kevin,
I bet it'd really appreciate having a copy of this.
Oh, absolutely. Kevin for the memorial for what did you say his name was? Anyway,
Donnie
he,
and I forgot the other one's name.
yeah, got a sent a picture, not this one, but another one. But anyway, I feel really privileged to have known them even briefly, and yeah, thank you.
There's so much to this image. It's just great, Terry.
It's a wonderful.
There was so much to the people, to them.
Terry, did you really shoot this in 2012?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm surprised we haven't seen
I
it
did.
earlier. This is such a wonderful shot.
Yeah,
It is
thank you.
incredible.
Well, I was really privileged to share in their moment, and they really love each other.
Doesn't seem long ago.
Great image, Terry.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Pictorial Basic, 3 images. Third place, Elizabeth.
Oh, yeah. I like it.
Congratulations. Nice shot, Elizabeth.
Oh,
Really, it's so sweet.
that is
It is.
It's so sweet.
Love it.
darling.
And he ate the butterfly.
Oh, I wasn't gonna say that.
Congratulations. Second place, Laura.
All right, Laura.
Yeah, that's
Very good.
beautiful.
Very nice.
You enhance the colors, Laura?
You still here?
I guess not.
It's on mute.
Muted.
You're on mute.
Oh, she's muted.
Oh, you gotta unmute, Laura.
There we go. I touched the saturation a little bit, but not much. It was just an amazing sunrise.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Were you praying?
Nah. Looks like it.
Congratulations. First place, Mark.
All right, Mark.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, I really enjoyed it tonight, Charlie. I appreciate all the comments. I've learned a lot tonight, and pretty repetitive. I took this also Bees and Blooms, where, as you all know, I go a lot, and the just, you know, put it on high aperture and let it flash. So it turned out okay.
You sure did.
Nice
Very
job.
nice.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Beautiful shot. Very nice.
Pictorial Intermediate, 3 images. Third place, Ellen.
Thank you. I did work on that background a lot. I toned it way, way down. I wanted it to show somewhat because that's a skull behind her. It's a
De los Muertos, yeah.
yes,
Oh.
de los Muertos. So, but maybe I need to tone it down even a little more. But thank you.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
pretty.
Nice image.
Congratulations. Second place, Sherry.
Oh, thank you. This is some detail I shot at the Legion of Honor in the city.
Yep.
The light was just so beautiful.
Well seen. Love it.
Love the simplicity.
Mhm.
Really well
Might-
seen. I've been
that
there
might be
and
worth
looked at
printing.
a bunch and never came out that good. That's great.
All the textures, beautiful.
Hmm? Light, oh, composition, everything. It's really beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Congratulations, Sherry. Good job.
Congratulations. First place, Betsy.
Oh,
Yay.
Stunning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
this
stunning.
She went to bed.
Oh, Betsy.
This is Quarry Hill,
This
I
is the
think.
best part.
That's Quarry Hill, yes.
Very sweet.
Really great shot.
Yeah.
Hopefully she'll watch the recording.
Yeah.
She
That would be so beautiful on a canvas.
Mhm.
Hung in a room.
I want to print that if I took it. It's gorgeous.
Yes.
Congratulations to Betsy.
Good job.
Pictorial Advanced, 5 images. Honorable mention, Trisha.
Mhm.
Thank you. This was actually taken at one of our field trips. It was a neighborhood walk field trip. And this is somewhere in our neighborhood. I haven't been able to find it again. I wanted to go back and reshoot it, but it's just a fence that's got, you know, plywood and these things dripping off of it. I was like, what is that? And I just love it.
So cool.
Thank you.
Looks like a
Really.
varnish or a finish that's peeling.
Good job.
Yeah.
Well seen.
Nice.
Very nice.
Congratulations. Honorable mention, Steve.
Mhm. Thank you. Yep, this is another Salt Point image. I really enjoyed going up there. Spent quite a bit of time on this trying to make it special.
It is.
I love it.
I
I
needed a
just
little
love
bit
that
more.
place. That's one of my favorite places.
Yeah.
The
Yep.
Tufa, I call it
Bit of
Tufa Green Rock.
Yeah, I love it. It's
Beautiful.
spectacular.
Thanks.
Wonderful.
Congratulations. Third place, Linda.
Oh, my. That was taken at Spring Lake Park.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I did a lot of work on that with Tony's help. Need a little bit more work, and I really appreciate all your comments.
It seems so far across.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a beautiful sunrise. Just amazing. Thank you very much.
Lovely.
Congratulations.
I love the colors in it, the reflection.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Second place, Bill.
Oh,
That's
Oh, my.
Bill here?
I think so.
that's a great picture of that area.
Yep.
Kind of painterly.
Yeah, kind of
Yeah,
painterly.
great painterly.
Yeah.
Very nice, nice take on it.
I like the way that you kind of move around in this little back and forth.
Find little gems.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Beautiful image. Beautiful image.
What lens did you take this with, Bill?
Not here.
He's not here, but it's up in the left corner.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay.
Congratulations to Bill.
Yeah.
First place, Kevin.
All right, Kevin.
Way to go, Kevin.
I'm in shock. I didn't think I belonged in double A anymore.
There's a good
That window really looks like that. Go see.
Welcome back, Kevin.
The window really looks like that. I didn't change those colors at all. I just bumped the contrast up a little. But it's got this weird discoloration on it.
Uh-huh.
Great.
There's a very interesting.
Good seeing.
Yeah, very interesting sort of story-like
I'm
effect.
not too sure about all my metadata. Like my metadata credits all my photography to Steve Ruddy. But I'm not sure about that date. And that's
Oh.
This image has a really interesting story-like feel to it, which I think is a strength of Pictorial.
it was on my birthday. So I took it on my birthday. So that
All right.
special for me. Yeah, so.
Pictorial Masters, 5 images, honorable mention, Tamara.
He's not here tonight.
I thought you was.
Sorry, I'm here. I'm just doing too many things at once.
Oh, I didn't even see you. Hi.
Yeah, thank you. Not much to say about this. Just 2 giraffes that were fighting. And they make so much noise when they whack their heads together that because those little horny horns are actually bony too, and it's a crack. It's like 2 baseball bats or a baseball hitting a bat. It's so loud, but that was kind of a calm moment.
Oh, wow. It looks like a Valentine card.
That's what I gotta like that, just the X and the little shape between their necks and whatever. But thank you.
A wonderful photo.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Honorable mention, Bill.
Oh.
Well, thank you. I told my wife your comments, and she said, "I told you." About the branch going off to the. I told you. So thank you. I'm going to try work on that. See if I can make it sort of disappear into the darkness.
You have to listen to your wife more, Bill.
That's what I was going to say. Listen to your wife.
She's usually right. She's always right.
Well, we said so.
Always good advice.
Yes.
Beautiful image, though, Bill.
Very nice.
Really nice.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful
Nice
photo.
tones.
Congratulations. Third place, Anne.
Oh.
All right.
Well, I've been back to taking pictures a little bit with my little birds in the backyard, and I really like this one, even though it wasn't tack sharp, and I didn't think it would do well in nature, so
The eye's sharp, that's all that matters.
So I did put a painterly filter on it, and there you go.
It's beautiful. Really does feel like a watercolor.
It's actually great. I think
it's really beautiful.
Really nice.
Congratulations. Second place, Liz.
Trisha goes, said she's going to kill me. No. Anyway, we were hiking up at Foothill, and I said, "Here, put your mask." She had a red mask, and I thought it looked good.
That is so cool.
I'm using it as my profile picture at school.
Good choice.
Good one.
Good, I like it.
We wear them religiously.
Yes.
Congratulations. First place, Tim.
Love this.
Love this image.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Really spectacular.
Well, another wives story.
was struggling with the design of this. My wife came in and said, "Here."
Another wife's habit.
Listen to your wife. There, I love the color.
Very nice.
I actually found these leaves and then brought them in, and I was working with them. And for Christmas, I got the focus rails. So I was using them to be able to really get the focus to be better.
Nice composition too.
Yeah.
Nice composition.
It's really
Rough lighting,
gentle.
colors.
Color and shape.
Yep.
Congratulations. Creative Basic, one image. First place, Fritz.
All right, Fritz. Here cows.
Well, this is our eclipse image from 2012. And I just had a little point and shoot kind of camera in those days. And in order to take those pictures of the sun during an eclipse, I had to buy one of those little folding eclipse goggles that they sell at the science shops during eclipses. Took those out, and I taped the film to my camera with Scotch tape, and then shot these images every minute for about 3 hours. The good news, it was pretty much the cocktail hour from 5 till 7, so I was entertained. It was cool.
Nice job, Fritz.
Congratulations. Creative Intermediate, 3 images. Third place, Greg.
Nice.
Poison oak?
I was going to say that just makes me itch.
I have to-
I don't think it is.
Yeah, I think this is actually poison ivy.
Oh.
Which is the last leaves to fall off the branches in fall.
Huh.
And it's a double exposure.
Wow.
It was done pretty much all by the camera itself by setting the camera to HDR setting and moving the camera during the shots. 2 photographs are superimposed on each other. So it's actually a camera movement photo.
Oh, cool.
And I like the motion that it exudes.
Nice.
Where did you find poison ivy? Poison ivy. I think of that as a Midwestern sort of thing.
Or East New England.
I remember Illinois. Poison ivy.
Great. Thank you.
Second place, Ronnie.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
Thank you. I took this at the Wooden Shoe Tulip Festival in Oregon in 2017. I flew up there, a friend and I flew up to Portland and drove down for the Tulip Festival. This is basically 2 layers. There was, a whole row of these red and white tulips, and I blurred the background and desaturated it and put a little vignetting, and voila. And I painted in the stems in the back too.
Oh, nice. Wow.
Good touch.
Thank you.
Cool.
Good job.
Very nice.
Congratulations, Ray.
Congratulations. First place, Ellen.
Very cool.
This I took I don't know 4 or 5 years ago, and it was always in my mind because I liked the position of these birds and what they were doing, but it was out of focus a little and then blown out in the whites. And then just very recently, someone was showing a group of us the photos using the oil paint feature, filter in Photoshop, and so I tried it on this, and I just really liked what it brought out, the feathers, and what it did to the tree in the background. It just it worked. So
Wonderful.
there you have it.
Really nice.
Yes, it looks great.
Good job.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Ellen. That's great.
One of the masters.
Very cool.
Ellen, did you process the trees in the background differently than you did the birds?
No, it was the same filter. I did some other things, like it lost the eyes, so I had to bring back the eyes, and I moved one bird on the one on the right was a little too far to the right for my liking, so I moved him over. But yeah, it was the same filter on everything.
Okay, thank you.
Nicely done.
Nice.
Creative Advanced, 3 images, 3rd place. Tricia.
Thank you.
Yay.
This is the Berkeley Art Museum. In the, I think it was late afternoon. A class that I was in, we went to Berkeley for a talk that was at the museum, and I just loved this building and I wanted to play with it. So I did a whole lot of ICM work on it, and I have several images that I really like from it, but this one I thought I just really love that pop of color. So thank you.
Love the tonality. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations. 2nd place. Steve.
Yeah, that's great.
Love it.
Yeah, Laura was with me on this one. We went down to the city and taking some pictures of this, and I just saw those 2 clocks there, and just thinking to myself, weird times.
Yeah.
And it was weird times in 2020, and
Okay.
I just had to do something to make it look a little bit weirder, and I thought it was worth doing. So thanks.
What do you call shot 21?
Pardon?
What you do, Steve?
Yeah.
Congratulations. 1st place. Phil.
Hey,
Oh, love that.
Very cool, Phil.
thank you. I took this in a Petaluma antique shop. There was a stack of frames there, and I basically zoomed out really quick while I took it with a slightly slow shutter speed. And then I did add in my own photographs, basically wanted to make them barely visible to imply they still had these, fading memories within the frame.
Right.
And, that's about it.
Very
We
cool.
love this.
Very creative.
Very creative.
Really like it.
Thank you.
You know, the this image really reminded me of some of the scenes from the movie Interstellar.
Oh yeah.
Where at the very end they're in this multidimensional universe.
Yeah.
It sort of has that. But
I
nice
love
job
that
with
movie.
yeah, nice job with the compositing though.
Yeah.
Very, very subtle and nicely done.
He's really good at it.
Really nice.
Well deserved.
Congratulations. Creative Masters, 4 images. Honorable mention. Nancy.
I knew it.
Oh, I want to let you know, Charlie, that I double tricked you. It's an elephant. But I made it like a tree.
And you worked. It worked.
And that's exactly what I wanted, was it to imply that it was an added eye. And if you noticed if it was an elephant, you could actually look at it another way, is that the trunk could be to the left or the trunk could be to the right. So
Oh, yeah. So
I see that. I see that. Nicely done.
Very well done.
Very cool.
I got a chance to play that one on you.
You did it, Nancy.
We knew.
Mission accomplished.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
3rd place. Terry.
That's cool, Terry.
Really cool. I like
And
it.
using this technique that is a blur brush to just rearrange the pixels. And I did warp the door a little bit more than it was, but what struck me when I looked at it and what I wanted to do was the angles I thought were so intriguing, and I wanted to bring those out even more and kind of give it a feeling of being in some imagined place rather than stuck in reality.
Yep, good job.
I like her yellow slippers.
Really cool.
Yeah, and the colors were great. I mean, they just lent themselves.
I was going to ask if that green color was added or that was part of the original shot.
No, that was that was the original shot.
Okay.
What I did do was I grabbed some corners and I pulled them out so that, like I say, the warp was a little more. But this was in Mykonos, one of the alleyways.
Cool.
Really great.
Great
Thank
job,
you.
Terry.
Thank you.
Yes.
It was
Glad it
fun.
worked out, Terry.
I like warping reality, not that it needs much help these days.
Yeah. Well said.
We're in a warped world.
Yeah.
It will get better.
Congratulations. Second place. Anne.
Oh, love this, Anne.
Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing.
I'm hesitating to describe how I did this because I did it over a period of time. Is that it kind of evolved over different layers over different months. So I can't entirely remember, but I do remember that the first thing that made me pair the leaf with the woman was the palette. The colors seemed to go together really well, and they were both textural. And the leaf you could kind of see through, and that's the Bliss statue that you can also see through. And I thought the bottom needed some texture or something, so I added that. And so anyway.
I love the depth you've got to this.
I'm thinking about the title. Are you all right? Everything? It's a.
Congratulations.
Love the edge.
First place.
That's beautiful.
Tony.
Yay. Did you really warp it?
Tony, you there?
He went to bed too.
You might have gone to bed.
I'd love to know if he warped it or what.
Could have been.
I'm going to see him in the morning. I'll tell him.
That is just astounding.
Really beautiful.
Yep.
Reminds me of a barn I saw in the Palouse.
Mm-hmm.
Really
My
nice.
guess is
I'm
it is
curious
not
whether-
warped because the windows are still square.
Oh,
That's true, huh?
Right.
Good eye.
Need the tornado.
Well, I think the whole top is still square, just the walls.
I want to know more about it.
Yeah. He's got to fill in the blanks.
Yep.
Like the storm's going to blow it over.
Neat.
Really cool.
Congratulations. Nature Basic, 3 images. Third place. Elizabeth.
All right, Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, you here?
Went to bed too.
Yeah, not any longer.
Congratulations.
I want to find one of those.
Yeah, what you gonna do with it?
Take a picture of it.
Congratulations. Second place. Fritz.
Well, this is the, there was another picture of a rhino earlier in this presentation. There was a white rhino. This is a southern white rhino, and these guys are not really endangered.
Oh.
There's lots, and so this guy is fine. You look at his mouth. This is a guy that eats grass. He doesn't eat brush, so he's pretty docile compared to the black rhinos that eat brush, and they're kind of pissed off all the time. Those are the ones that hate you. So anyway, we were only about 30 feet from this guy. So
Wow.
yeah, he didn't care. He was great.
Good job.
Congratulations. First place, Mark.
This was taken on our macro field trip, and I just walked out in the backyard, and it was just sitting on one of our pots, and I did like the angle and the offsetting colors of the greens and the clayish color. And I had never seen one of these before, so it was kind of nice to
very
from that standpoint too. Yeah.
Nice.
Nice image.
Really sharp.
Love the eye.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Nature Intermediate, 4 images, honorable mention. That.
Thank you. Yeah, they had struck a pose, and they were taking a break. These were not fighting with each other. They were just standing there and feeling the afternoon warmth. It's a fairly big it's Tosha National Park, so there's huge area and lots of wildlife in different places. So in Namibia. So thank you.
Congratulations.
Very nice.
Third place, Sherry.
Oh, thank you. This guy was just charming. I was actually shooting groups of little sanderlings, and he was out there all by his lonesome, being in between the plumage. I had a hard time IDing him, and I leaned on a group that I belonged to, a birding group, but it was a life bird for me, so that was exciting.
Cool.
Very sweet.
Great image. Very sharp.
Congratulations. Second place, Greg.
Good story.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is another wife-assisted.
Did he toss him the mole?
We were walking. Yeah, she placed the mole down there. We were walking out by the Santa Rosa Creek Trail, and she spotted this heron. And I took a photo of it. It was just standing there, not really doing much. And she said, "Let's go. I've seen enough." And I said, "Well, let's wait a little bit." And just as soon as I said that, this heron started walking with a sense of purpose. And I got my lens on him and just followed him. I took about 100 shots. And at one point he just froze and crouched down and just almost instantaneously thrust his beak into the ground about 3 or 4 inches. And out popped this mole. And I've actually have another better photo I may enter later. But during this sequence, this hawk came down, and Liz said, "Look at the hawk, look at the hawk." And this hawk was actually going to come down and get the mole from the heron. And the heron stood up and flared its feathers, and the hawk disappeared. But in the process of me looking up to see the hawk,
wow,
this bird shook the mole and then threw it up in the air and gulped it down in one gulp.
Yeah.
I missed that part because I was looking at the hawk. I saw what he did, but I didn't have the camera on him at the time. And then when he swallowed it, you could see.
Yeah.
I've got a photo of that. The bulge in the throat of the bird, like a big Adam's apple, if you will.
It's a nice photo. I saw one of these eat an entire clapper rail once. When I was out in the marsh, I couldn't believe it could get it down.
Wow. Yeah, they're quite prehistoric.
Congratulations.
Great, great.
Very nice. Yeah.
And it was a bright day for sure.
Mhm.
First place, Betsy.
Wow,
Got
that's 3 firsts for her.
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Go, Beth.
Gonna wish she stayed up.
Yeah, right?
I've been texting her the info.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
Congratulations to Betsy. Nature Advanced, 4 images. Honorable mention, Herb.
Oh, all right.
Thank you. Yeah, this is probably a mix between pictorial or nature, but I just liked the shot. It was lying there in the sun. I couldn't resist. I liked the intersection of the line in the background, so I threw it in. Thank
Really
you.
beautiful.
nice.
Where was it?
Where was it?
Where was it? It was in Sebastopol,
Oh, okay.
backyard.
Wow.
Wow.
Cool. It's beautiful, beautiful focus.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Third place, Linda.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Oh yeah, this is that Osprey in Montana got it over the somewhere outside of Ennis, but there were a whole bunch of them just they're probably maybe a couple months old, and they were just learning how to fly and how to fish. It was interesting watching them do face plants in the water. You know, they weren't getting it, and it was just really a lot of fun. But it was a beautiful area to sit and watch for hours. Yeah.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Congratulations. Second place, Guy.
It was cool.
Wow, that is so
That's so cool.
That's beautiful.
Those colors are amazing.
what a weird creature.
Sky's still here?
I don't think so.
Oh, too bad.
Congratulations to Guy. First place, Tara.
Man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I spent most of last year taking pictures of insects in our backyard. So you'll see more.
That is phenomenal.
Those colors are amazing.
Yeah, stunning.
And the clarity.
Yeah, I'm really pleased with this one.
Yeah.
What lens did you use?
I actually had been learning more about how to do close-up insect photography, and I got a magnifier that clips onto my macro lens.
Ooh.
So I'm able to get in even more detail, but you have to be closer, and the plane of focus really diminishes because it's so magnified. But when you get a good shot, you get a really good shot because that magnifier does, you can see it really, you can get the detail.
Sounds like a presentation to me.
Is that a Rhinox that you're using?
It is.
Yeah, I know a lot of people on the flower side of macro photography that use Rhinox. I'm about to get one.
Yeah, it's great. It's hard with insects though because they move, you know, and when you have such a short opportunity to get them in focus and everything, it is hundreds of pictures that are crap, and then you
That's
get one.
what I've heard. It's very hit or miss.
Yep.
Maybe you could use hairspray.
Oh, insects were harmed. Yeah.
That's
my
mind-blowing.
Great job, Tara. Good
Yeah.
to see you.
Well, good to know that you have one. I can.
Glad you're back.
Yeah, send me an email if you want to know more.
I will once I get it. I will. Thank you, Tara.
Sorry there. Nature Masters, 4 images. Liz.
Yeah, it would have been good to get them a little sharper, but it was fun watching how they were unscathed by those huge waves. Just dove right in. It was a wild day.
I love the feeling of it.
Yeah.
I really love that wave too. That wave is gorgeous.
Great wave. And they're just playing. Looks like, of course, they're hunting, but
A lot of drama. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's a cool shot.
Glad we didn't get in the water.
I'm glad you're safe.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Third place. Bill.
Thank you.
My favorite bird.
So I took this with a
Only a
little,
mother could
with a
love.
little pack raft, a one-person raft at Spring Lake. And I found that I could just coast right up to the edge of the shore, and the birds had ignored me. About
Oh.
8 vultures flew in and just came right up, just ignored me as long as I just sat there.
Wow.
I got the shot.
Seen that.
Congratulations. Second place. Mara.
Mm. Are you still awake, Tamara? Oops.
We're getting down to 27 participants.
More going to sleep.
Congratulations to Tamara. First place. Mike.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Gorgeous shot. Just a gorgeous shot.
Mike, your name's on there.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
My what?
Your name.
Name's on it.
It is?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The
I guess I
bottom
didn't
right.
notice.
Oh.
Oh, well.
You're
It was
lucky.
fun taking this picture.
Didn't even see it.
RC missed it.
Yeah.
we did.
I guess we weren't
Congratulations
supposed
on
to-
your first win as a master. That is fabulous.
It's stupendous.
Yeah.
Well, I owe this to my new camera, I think. I was practicing with the R5 and the animal eye autofocus. And it really works. It really works. And that and in 20 frames a second, you can come up with the splashes like that. So it was a lot of fun. And I think it was first or second time out with the camera. And there was a lot of seagulls. So I thought, well, I'll practice on these guys. And I have the whole series of the takeoff run, so to speak.
Wow.
Wow.
I thought the way the wings seemed to work.
That's
The
one
big flash is great.
huge land.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also have the R6 instead of the R5, but yeah, those new Canon mirrorless cameras are amazing in the number of good shots you get when you use the animal autofocus on the eyes.
Yeah, it's
But
incredible.
they're incredible also in terms of their ISO resistance and their in-body stabilization really aid to get shots like this.
So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Congratulations. And best of show.
Yay!
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. That was a fun picture to do, and I had a lot of pride in that one. So thanks. It's nice to see her recognized.
Yeah,
You
Mike,
should enter it.
I would say that this is the sense of flow you have in that was exquisite. Although I went back and forward between this and the 2 Men in Love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were both excellent shots, but this one was very rare in the sense of flow you caught with that water.
Yeah.
And I thought made this quite exceptional.
Thank you very much.
Mike, you should enter this in the big photo competition at the California Academy of Science
Oh, yeah.
with Susie Esterhaus is
Oh,
the judge.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take a look at that.
I'll forward it to you.
I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Nice.
You do
seeing
want
you.
to remove your name though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll have to
right.
send you another one. I didn't even notice that one.
Neither did I, to tell you the truth.
Well, thanks.
Thank you,
I knew it was
Charlie.
yours.
Thank you, Charlie. This was very,
Thanks.
very.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, it's been a joy talking to you guys. Joel?